Ladies and gentlemen, today is April 9th, 2015, and this is the KNKL Show, episode 221. I'm your host, Keenan Lafferty, and today is Thoughtful Thursday, where we like to sit beneath the bonsai tree, beneath the peach tree that Oogway speaks to us about a riddle about our lives, or whatever he does in Kung Fu Panda. You know what I'm talking about. We're underneath the peach tree, we learn about our lives, and we normally learn to be better artists, but today we are going to be talking about more mental game. And today the subject is going to be giving back. Giving back. But before we actually get into the talk, because I am so freaking awesome, and I told you guys that this was not going to be a guilt trip about the new Patreon and giving back to me after creating the show for you. But the Patreon has been launched, and you can go check it out by clicking that link in the bottom right that says Get My PSDs, because, hey, look at that. You can come here and choose your rewards, one of which being my PSDs. And it just so happens that I released the Ari PSDs, all three of them, a bunch of different, parts, like the sketches and just different layers, as well as the Jinx one we were working on from Tuesday. But you can do that at your own time and know that it will never be required of you. But if you would like to give back, then that would be awesome. All right, so let's move past that. Let's get into the actual talk. Why you guys are here, right? You want me to give you a lecture, right? On giving back. So let's go ahead and get started on this. And why I have found that giving back to the world is probably one of the most important things that you can ever learn to do. And, oh my gosh, I just realized, oh my gosh, I just realized someone pledged to be, this is so cool. Oh my gosh, someone just pledged to be the mentor, for the mentorship. Holy crap. That is so cool. Thank you. I don't know who that was, but I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out right after this. I'm going to find out who that was. And they are going to get mentored really good. All right, so anyway, giving back. Let's talk about that, why it's a good thing. Man, that just made my freaking day. Thank you so much. So let's see, giving back. I can't even collect my thoughts now. Okay, should we just start the show over? Nah, whatever, let's just let this go to YouTube, whatever, who cares. All right, so giving back is very important because, hey, look at that. As soon as you give back to the world, it seems that the world comes back and supports you. It gives back. But something that I talked about last week was that the world tends to be a very selfish place. And that meaning that if you don't take the first step out, that the world will not step back. Like the world will never give you something, right? You have to give something to the world first before something comes back to you. And this is just a very, very important principle to understand, because a lot of people operate under the mentality of just straight entitlement. They say that, oh, well, you know, I'm a human being. I'm a living human being with rights. And I'm an American citizen, if you live in America or wherever you live. An Australian citizen. And I have rights, mate. And unfortunately, that's not the way that the world works, because just being a living human being or just being a good person doesn't actually entitle you to anything in life. The way that you start to deserve things in life is by creating value, honing a skill. Like, I've chosen to become an artist. I've chosen to improve my public speaking skills because I want to be able to reach out to people like you and help you and give you ideas that you can, again, tailor to your life, right? Like we talked about last week. Don't take everything that I say as like perfect, holy scripture. It's just ideas. You should be taking a bunch of ideas from many, many different sources, and if you want a few, I've listed them before. People like Jim Rohn is one of the greatest life coaches I've ever listened to. He's got a really funny style. You have to get used to it. Type in, that's Jim Rohn. Tony Robbins, who was one of his students. Let's see who else. Stuart Wilde was another one. Let's see, who was the other one? Les Brown. Les Brown, those four guys are probably four of the greatest mentors that, I just watch them on YouTube. But I love taking all of their ideas and meshing them into my philosophy, right? And but the most common thing that I've heard from every single one of these people, right? They differ in a bunch of different subjects, but the one thing that they all stand united on is giving back. Giving back. every single book that I've read about financial success, health success, any sort of success in your life, it seems that just giving back or putting something into something before you expect something back is the way to do it. And with health, right? You got to do the work. You got to be able to exercise. You got to be able to eat properly. You got to learn how to cook a few things. Then you get back, but you got to learn to give. Okay. But let's talk about specifically charity. Let's talk about giving money to people, right? Giving money or service, right? Because your time is just as valuable. Actually, your time is more valuable than money, and you will learn that as you as you grow. You will learn that your time is actually a very important asset to you, because it actually is always being taken away from you. Money, you can always figure out ways to make more, but time you can never get back. That's why it is a very precious resource. But let's talk about giving that. Let's talk about giving time and giving resources to people. One of the things that I have noticed when I have done this, and for those of you who are interested in my philosophy on giving back and charities, you should check out a book called Richest Man in Babylon by George Clayson. I think it's George Clayson. Yeah, Richest Man in Babylon. It talks about how to split up basically your income that comes in. It teaches you how to split it up, so that way no matter how much you make, you will always have a percentage set aside that you will basically give back to the world. And it teaches that in a really cool story. Like, I love the way that the book is laid out. Richest Man in Babylon. I'm telling you guys, go out and get it today. Like, I don't care if it's 4 o'clock in Sweden right now, go out and get it right now. Or look up a place where you can get it. Because that, like, I've looked up all kinds of different, I've read a bunch of books on like financial things and like how to be successful in this and that. And for some reason, just the simplicity and the way that the stories are told in that book, they just really hit home for me, right? So I read that book, right? Step 1, read the book. Step 2, you're like, oh my gosh, this is how I'm going to run my life from now on. The way that my income comes in, I'm going to split it up in exactly these percentages, and then I'm going to give back. I'm going to give back to people. And ideally, I mean, you can use it for whatever you want. You can use it to help out your relatives. You can use it to help out your friends. But ideally, you want to help out people that will never see your face again. People that will never know who you are, where you live, or why you're doing it. But here's the interesting thing about that, is that the few times that I have done this, the few times that I have given back to people, is that I've noticed that people don't receive very well. People don't like to receive things. People don't like to always receive something for nothing. And there's a good thing and a bad thing about this. One is that we have been conditioned growing up that we are meant to work for our resources. We're meant to work for stuff. And if we get something for nothing, then we are, there's something wrong with that. There's something like we're beggars, right? We're beggars, or we're low lives, or, we shouldn't take something from somebody else. But I've learned that just as important as learning to give back, it is also very important to understand that when you do receive, you need to basically, I hope I can say this right. Okay. Jim Rohn actually says this. He talks about your life as seasons, right? And he talks about basically, because there's like spring where you plant the crops, right? Summer where you nurture the crops. And in the fall, you reap the crops, right? You gather all of your vegetables, the fruits of your labor, right? And he basically says it this way, and this has to do with receiving. He says that in the fall, right, when your crop is ready to be harvested, you must take it without complaint. If you did not do well, right, if your results aren't good, you need to take that and just own it. Say, look, my actions and my habits have brought me this crop, and it's not good. And the only person, right, and you want to know whose fault it is? You got to look at the person who planted the crops. And where are you going to find that person? And one of these things right here. I suggest you get one. But he also says, if you go to harvest your crops in the fall and it's amazing, right? If your crops did absolutely amazing, then you need to take those without apology. You need to harvest your crop. You need to receive the fruits of your labor without apology. And that basically means that if you do well in life, or if you've given to the world and now you are receiving back what you have put out there, you need to take it without apology. Because this is something that I struggle with, and this is something that a lot of other people struggle with. And that is that when they receive things, that they have a hard time taking it. They have a hard, like, they always feel like, oh, you know, I don't need that. Or they want to look like a good person, like, right? A good person who doesn't need anything, doesn't need help. Even if it's not, you know, sometimes people just want to help you, right? Let people help you, because what's interesting is that by denying that person help, you're actually not making them feel any better. Like if someone offers you something, the best thing that you can do, the few times that I've offered help and resources to other people, what I want more than anything is for them to just take it and say thank you, right? I just want them to take it and say thank you. And some people do, and some people don't, you know? So, but that is a really interesting thing that I've noticed, is that people have a really hard time receiving. All right, so I'm going to open up question catapults. All right, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen. Okay, let's get back to this. All right, so any questions you have, please cast them over the castle walls. And then we will wrap up with this final thought, which is something I wrote down saying, the world will give you anything you ask of it. The world will give you anything that you ask of it. And I wrote it down like this. Like, see how it's like ask, and it's like circled like 3 times, right? Because it's very, very important that you learn how to ask the world for what you want. And you need to learn how to ask yourself for basically where you want to go. You need to ask yourself, how are you going to get there? And you need to also ask yourself, are the habits that I am engaging in day to day going to take me there? You know, this is something we talked about last week. Like, don't try to kid yourself. Don't try to fool, like, you can fool others. You know, fool your family, fool your friends, fool me if you want to, but you're not going to fool yourself. In the end, you're going to be staring dead at yourself in the face, in that thing behind me, and you're going to have to own up to it. You're going to be looking at your crop, right? You're going to be looking at your crop, and it's going to be good or it's going to be bad, and you got to own up to it. So, a couple questions coming in, and then we'll talk a little bit more about asking. All right, Swiss Fonda is asking, how do you stay so confident and calm while streaming live? Do you do some warm-ups before the show so you can avoid any mistakes? Swiss Fonda, yes. Well, I mean, you just saw it. You were here during the pre-show. I always do a pre-show for about 15 minutes, and, you know, I'll kind of put on some music, kind of move around, dance around, move my body, you know, kind of get out of my comfort zone, because this is really funny. I went to a body language seminar very recently, and I learned about the bubble, right? The personal bubble. You know, when people like intrude on your personal space, you know, there's like a bubble that you almost like physically can't stretch yourself out from. And to like go out here, it actually feels very uncomfortable. Like if you were just walking a crowd of people and you just did this, like, and you start walking around, they would look at you like you were weird. Well, maybe not because you're holding your arms out, but you would also feel weird. Sometimes you even feel weird if there's nobody watching you, and that is sort of like your personal bubble. So the reason why, but also the other reason why I appear confident is because I've done this like a few hundred times. You know, this is like probably like the 400th video I've ever recorded. You know, so I just have a lot of experience. If you go back, if you type in KNKL 1, you can see the differences in my speaking tones. You can see the difference in my body language and just the way that I actually project my voice. You can go back and you can see a major, major difference. And I'm still improving. I'm sure I'll look back on this video in a couple of years and I'll be like, wow, yeah, you know, I was doing okay, but nothing like I'm doing today, right? When I'm like giving like massive speeches and I'm like big old motivational speaker speaking to like thousands of people. That'd be pretty cool. I would enjoy that. But like I said, best thing to do is just get some experience. Get some experience doing it. And warm-ups also help too, which is why I do the pre-shows. All right. Jack728 is asking a great question. Is there too much to ask for? Or is there a possibility to give too much? You know, I have pondered those questions. And I really think that those are questions you need to ask yourself. You really need to ask yourself is, the questions you need to ask yourself are, you know, is it really wrong for me to ask for $1 million? Is it really wrong for me to build myself up, build the skills, create something that can entertain millions of people, and then in return, ask for $1 million? or 2 million or 5 million or 10 million or 100 million or a billion. You know, it's like, why, like, who really cares? This goes back to nobody really cares. Nobody really cares if you make $1 billion. Nobody cares in this world if you make $1 billion. Nobody cares. I mean, well, maybe some people, but in the end, it's like when you go to bed tonight, do you worry about like Bill Gates for like what he has to worry about, or like the investments he has to make, or like that he like stepped on a freaking like a dog turd walking home? Do you think you care about his problems? Like, nobody cares about it, right? You need to create your life and enjoy it for what it is. And life will give you whatever you ask for it, because it has a lot to give. It has more resources and more money and more happiness and joy and love than you could ever take up. You're not taking it from somebody else. That's another real problem that I think a lot of people think, is that they think by doing well that they're stealing from somebody else, you know? And there are ways to do that. I understand that. There are ways that you can benefit at the cost of others. But I'm going to ask you guys to consider ways to become successful, right? Health, wealth, love, and happiness by the benefit of others, by entertaining other people, by bringing a smile to their face, by entertaining them or teaching them, right? Which is what I've chosen to do. And yeah, do that. And then there is never an amount to, never too much to ask for. And also, I had the same thing about giving. I was like, oh, I doubt I'm going to get to the end of my life and say, man, if I just wouldn't have been so charitable, you know? Even if I became homeless, I'd be like, man, I shouldn't have given away all that money. I shouldn't have given away all that money and changed those people's lives and helped those people in need. I should have just given away less. I should have been less charitable. You know, I really don't think that will be a thought ever in my life. Okay, next question. And just so you know, I am focusing on questions geared toward mental game today. Art questions, save those for Tuesday. All right. Rin the Yordle is asking, when do you feel you've given too much or not enough? I usually feel like I'm not giving enough. Well, it depends on what you're talking about. If you're talking about like love, relationships, time, service, money, if you feel you're not giving enough resources, then I would highly suggest that you take a look into that. Take a look into that and read The Richest Man in Babylon, because if it has to do with resources, that book has a really good plan of how to do it. It has an amazing plan on how to do it. And you know what the interesting thing is that when I have gone out and done things like this, I've noticed that there's almost like, I call it enlightened selfishness. It's like you give to other people because you know how good it's going to feel to you. It's like that same thing. It's like when someone hands something out to you, the best thing that you can do is take it from them, because that will not only make you feel good, but it makes them feel amazing. It makes them feel like they helped. It makes them feel like a good person. So I really think that if you do have an urge that you want to give, I really think it's one of the best ways to just get happy. Like, if you're ever feeling bad, if you're ever like worrying about, I once heard it said this way, and you can take it for what it's worth, but it really affected me. It's like, what if you just stopped worrying about how to pay your own bills and started worrying about somebody else's? What if you started worrying about paying somebody else's bills? Take your mind off of yours for a second, you know? Help somebody else out, you know? I found that when you do that, it really does come back. It always comes back, and it's a leap of faith. It always will be, but there's so many things in life that are, and I would ask you guys to consider that. All right, last question, and then we're gonna end today's show. Ooh, Dakari, great question. How do you get ready for success in your life? I know that part of being successful is being ready for it. Oh, this is so good. This is so good, because this is exactly, like, I've had these feelings going through my whole life, right? Like, for example, I remember when I first got my job working at Riot. Prior to that, I was working at the mall selling jeans, and there was a huge jump from making below minimum wage to all of a sudden making more money than I ever had before. I think I got hired at like 50,000, right? 50,000, which sounds pretty good, but when you're working in Santa Monica, it kind of, you know, it's okay. Right? It's okay. Because stuff out there, it costs like, you know, $1,200 for a tiny, like what used to be a crack house, right? But anyway, so I went from $6.75 an hour to about, I don't know, it's like $25 an hour. And I'm sharing this stuff with you guys because I really think it's just good. Like, who cares about money? I really think the numbers are important. You guys deserve to know what kind of stuff happens, right? Nowadays, artists like me, working for that can make, upwards of like 75 to, a couple of my coworkers, they make 150, 200 grand, So there's like a big bubble, right? And within that, you will set your value, right? And you can grow in value and make more money, or you can stay at the bottom, right? A lot of people will work at the mall for the rest of their life. A lot of people will work at Chili's for the rest of their life because they believe, and this is what I'm talking about right here, how do you prepare yourself for success? You need to break the thought of thinking that you don't deserve it. You need to understand that everything that you get in life, good and bad, you deserve it, right? You deserve it. Everything you've done has brought you to that exact spot. And if it's an extreme misfortune, this and that, it's like sometimes bad things happen to good people. And I don't have an answer to that. I really don't. But it's just like everything you get in life, it seems like that's just the way it goes, right? But most of the time, I will say that you do deserve it. All right. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end today's show. Thank you guys for joining me live on Twitch. Sorry I can't get to all your questions. But as a final recap, I do want to just let you guys know that, again, thank you to you guys for the support on Patreon. And if you'd like to get my PSDs, then click that button in the bottom right. You guys take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. I'll see you on Tuesday where we'll be working on Jinx some more. Let's paint Jinx, my favorite champion ever in the entire League of Legends. We'll be working on her again. So I will see you guys next time. Until then, take care.